Photos before death. Part 1. This may seem like an innocent selfie of a kid with his mom. Unfortunately, that's far from the truth. You see, the two were on board Malaysian Airlines Flight 17. Hours after the photo was uploaded to Facebook, the plane would be shot down above Ukrainian airspace, killing everyone on board. This claustrophobic-inducing photo is of John Edward Jones. In 2009, John was exploring the Nutty Putty cave system when he unfortunately got stuck in an upside-down position. It was pretty much impossible to get him out from that position, so he ended up suffering a very slow death.
Daisy, Daisy, I'm half crazy. For the love of you, it would be a stylish marriage.
Disturbing facts you wish you could unhear. Part 6. Scientists are warning us about an upcoming solar storm that has the potential to shut down the internet for months or even years. If this happens, the global economy will crash almost instantly and millions will lose their jobs. The last time the Yellowstone volcano erupted was 640,000 years ago, and it erupts roughly every 600,000 years. That means that we're 40,000 years overdue for an eruption, and what's worse is that there's nothing we could do to prevent it. Kayla Posey, who you may recognize from this GIF, went to her prom last year and unalived herself. It's estimated that there's around 2,000 active serial killers in the US alone.
Question that has long plagued police is, what do we make of the McGrady tapes? Back in 2001, at a Blockbuster in McGrady, North Carolina, a car drove by in the parking lot and just dropped a tape outside of the building. So employees saw that and they went outside to get the tape and they were like, who would drop a tape off like that? Until they looked at it and they noticed something was wrong. This was the tape that was recovered from the parking lot and it was completely unlabeled. According to the story, they took it to the back room where they were able to play it back, and this was the footage they found. It is a 40-minute video of a person's face looking under what looks like a bathroom stall, and it's completely silent, like straight uncut 40 minutes of this and the cameraman just breathing heavily while they videotape this. Management turned the tape over to police, and the strangest part is that a search canine signaled that the tape had traces of human decomp on it. To this day, whoever's behind the McGrady tape is a mystery.
It took me 20 years to realize this about Snow White. So we all know the tale of Snow White and the 7 dwarves. But didn't you ever realize something odd about this? So after Snow White bites into the poisonous apple from the witch, she falls into a deep sleep, from which she can supposedly only be awakened by loving kiss. Well, at least we all believed that that was the case. Until now. In this scene, we can see the prince waking up Snow White. But what if I told you Snow White never came back to life? Wait for it, because this is crazy. In the original movie, we are presented with the words, "So beautiful, even in death, the dwarfs could not find it in their hearts to bury her." The prince that supposedly kissed her awake was never actually a prince, but her guardian angel which accompanies her to heaven. I mean, we can see her prince taking her to this castle, which looks very much like heaven. Snow White was never woken up by the kiss. He brought her to heaven because she died. My childhood is ruined.
Darkest conspiracy theories.
The Earth virus theory. This theory states that the Earth is a living organism, and we, you and I, the humans, are the virus. The Earth grows plenty of free food, and every animal seems to balance and coexist on Earth in sort of a circle of life. For instance, bees pollinate crops, moving from one plant to the next, fertilizing each plant. It's beneficial. Even though they're taking pollen, they're still being beneficial. But humans, we seem to not benefit the Earth at all. We're more destructive. We clear rainforests, kill the ocean with our plastics, puncture giant holes in the ozone with our chemicals and fuels, and we cause man-made climate disasters. We don't seem to coexist. But before I continue, question time. If aliens were about to destroy the planet, and one came up to you, they chose you, and said, if you show us 2 things on Earth of why we shouldn't destroy this planet and kill you all, what 2 things would you show them to save the Earth? Let me know down below. But anyways, think about the human body. When we're sick, our body creates antibodies to kill off the viruses. That's exactly what the earth does to us, creating earthquakes, droughts, tsunamis, and other natural disasters. Let's face it, we're destructive in nature. And while a tiny bit of us do try to help the planet, the majority of us selfishly harm it. Maybe we are the virus.
You're not gonna believe what this woman caught on her camera. Now it's scary because was this girl actually being kidnapped? But what's scary is that this is a common thing that criminals will do. They have one person playing the victim, screaming for help. You run out to go help them, and instead, they kidnap you. It's scary because you don't know if she actually needed help. Stay safe out there, folks.
This woman was pretending to be a 14-year-old so that way she could sleep with teen boys. Her name is Alyssa Zinger, and in actuality, she's 23 years old, nearly a decade older than what she was claiming to be. In real life, Alyssa would work as a grocery clerk, but when she was on apps such as TikTok or Snapchat, she would pretend to be a 14-year-old girl who was homeschooled. And while she was doing this, she tricked at least 5 boys between 13 and 14 years old into dating her. And with some of these boys, she even went over to their houses and met their families. She even had their families thinking that she was 14. Now, one of these boys who she tricked into dating her actually started dating another girl. And in response to this, Alyssa started sending them revenge porn. These were videos of her sexually assaulting the minor that she was previously dating. And these videos circulated all over Snapchat. The boy told all of this to detectives. Now, aside from what she did, one of the more disturbing things about this case so far is that Alyssa has not accepted any responsibility for what she had done. She's also acting like she doesn't understand why what she did is wrong. On top of that, she's been extremely uncooperative. She actually gave detectives a phone that was not hers when they initially asked her for her phone. She said that her true phone was lost, but nonetheless, investigators have been able to pull sexually explicit photos and videos from her iCloud. Her arraignment hearing is currently scheduled for April 16th of 2024.
Daddy, 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 hurry! I saw something scurry. What the
fuck is going on in here? And this isn't like woods I've never been to. Like, I've been here before. I've been here a lot. I've been here so much, I've actually been to the hospital getting stitches because of some of the adventures that I've had. That's beside the point. These are all different fucking people. And they're all just... This is Utah, Florida. They're all different.
Photos before death. Part 1. This may seem like an innocent selfie of a kid with his mom. Unfortunately, that's far from the truth. You see, the two were on board Malaysian Airlines Flight 17. Hours after the photo was uploaded to Facebook, the plane would be shot down above Ukrainian airspace, killing everyone on board. This claustrophobic-inducing photo is of John Edward Jones. In 2009, John was exploring the Nutty Putty cave system when he unfortunately got stuck in an upside-down position. It was pretty much impossible to get him out from that position, so he ended up suffering a very slow death.
The father threw his son in the rails, but what the bear did was amazing. Young couple Alexian and Natasha tied the knot at 20, stoked for their first kid. But childbirth was a nightmare for Nastia, leading to her unfortunate demise in surgery, leaving behind their baby. Post the loss, Alexian felt nothing but disgust for the newborn, diving headfirst into a dark mental hole with booze as his only escape. With Dad dodging his responsibilities, Granny Natasha Ivanova stepped in to fill the void, trying to pull him out of his pit. But her efforts hit the wall as he kept boozing hard. One day, after a heavy drinking spree, he staggered and left the kid on the rails, crashing next to it, passed out. Fortune had it, a big bear swooped in just in time, saving the kid and dropping him off at Granny's. Seemed like the bear's way of saying thanks for a previous favor when Granny saved a cub. The next morning, the sight of the kid lying safe at the doorstep left Granny stunned but also immensely relieved. Cops gave Alexian a stern warning. One more slip, and he'd kiss his parental rights goodbye. Staring at his mess and a kid he almost lost, Alexian snapped back to reality, swearing off booze, ready to step up as a responsible dad.
disturbing that a number of people have fell ill after watching it. Proceed with caution.
That one here smells great. Which one? Smells like Mother's crazy sister cake. Oh, you think so? Yeah, I do. It smells so good. She couldn't have been that crazy. I don't think so. Oh, you don't think so, huh? No. Well, she put her poodle one time in a microwave oven to eat it. Yeah, to eat it. Oh, no. No, silly. To dry it. But it exploded. And they were both found dead. She must have been out of her head.
Creepy facts about our world you didn't know about. Have you ever been sleeping and you had a nightmare that you've been falling off of a building or out of the sky and you woke up kind of flinching a little bit? This is actually called hypnic jerks and basically what it is, it's your body thinking you're about to die so it wakes you up. This might sound insane, but you're literally always 6 minutes away from dying, and every time you take a breath, the clock happens to restart. The ocean is just really a graveyard full of dead bodies and sunken ships, and every time you go visit the beach and take a dip in the water, you're basically swimming in a pool full of dead bodies. People unknowingly swallow about 8 spiders a year. Literally, spiders are crawling inside your mouth and down your esophagus, and you have no idea when or where. Facebook shut down 2 robots named Alice and Bob because they started talking to each other in their own language.
Hey, Apple! What?
If you guys have never heard about this case, then consider yourself lucky because this one is a disturbing one. This is a TikTok slideshow that I was tagged in, which shows this very disturbing looking guy with a very strange facial expression. Then shows these 2 girls, then the final slide are burgers. Now this slideshow might not make sense to most people, but it starts with this guy right here, Joe Metheny. Joe Metheny was a very gross and disturbed individual that lived in Baltimore and served burgers at a roadside barbecue stand. In the 1990s, Joe Metheny's girlfriend left him, and this triggered the inner serial killer that was hiding inside of him all along. He claimed that within the 90s, he took the lives of 10 different people, took the meatiest part of them, and then cooked them into his burgers and sold them to unsuspecting consumers at the barbecue stand. This means that without even knowing it, people were getting this very funky tasting meat that they just wrote off as, weird meat, but it was actually people that they were consuming. Joe Metheny has since passed away in prison, but through the entire duration of the rest of his life, he refused to apologize for these actions and expressed absolutely zero remorse for what he had done. And after hearing this story, it might make you think twice about getting burgers from random roadside barbecue stands.
Videos that cannot be explained. Pilot records passengers walking off a bridge that isn't connected to a plane.
Five things you didn't know about the killer clown, John Wayne Gacy. Some of his victims had been in his basement for so long that their bones had fused together. It took 2 whole years to put together the full skeletons. Some of his 33 victims are still unidentified. Breaks my heart to think that some of their loved ones might think that they ran away or are missing on purpose. Like many serial killers, he suffered a head injury. At 11 years old, he was under a swing set and got hit on the head. It formed a blood clot that wasn't identified until he was 16. Over that 5 years, he suffered blackouts that went away once the blood clot was treated. His mother's underwear kept going missing, and she found out that her young son John had been stealing her underwear and burying it underneath the house. This behavior stopped for a while, but once he turned 15, he started stealing neighborhood girls' underwear off of their clotheslines and burying it underneath the house as well. Given where the majority of his victims were found, it's extremely chilling. He may not have acted alone. In a 1992 interview, he claimed that he had an accomplice. Normally, I'd say this is just a Hail Mary to try to get the blame off him. One of his victims that survived, who was key in getting a conviction for him, his name was Jeff Rignall, but he lived to tell his story. He was trapped in the John Wayne Gacy house and suffered unspeakable things. For whatever reason, he was dumped in Lincoln Park. He said that when he was drifting in and out of consciousness, sometimes it sounded like there was somebody else in John Wayne Gacy's house. He told psychologists that during some of the murders, someone else was there to help him, but this was widely believed to be a symptom of schizophrenia. Thanks for watching, and if you like true crime, follow my account.
Made a video not too long ago talking about how humans might have superpowers, but now there may be a little scientific evidence to back this up. A lot of you may already know this, but a quantum theory demonstration revealed that just by observing something, it affects reality. For example, if you try to observe an electron, it actually changes the path of the electron. At first it seems small and meaningless, but after a little more research, you'll find out that positive thoughts actually increase plant growth as well. So this is the second instance where a human consciousness can physically affect something outside of his own body. This actually gets much deeper. There was an experiment done by a man named Masaru Emoto where he exposed water samples to the different words, thoughts, and intentions of different people and then photographed the results. He found that the water samples exposed to the intentions of wisdom, truth, love, and peace produced very beautiful crystals, while the samples exposed to the intentions of evil and sickness produced very strange and ugly looking crystals. Now these things may seem small, but just like how we're able to work out our muscles and upgrade to greater weight, is it crazy to say that we could also work out our mind or consciousness and eventually move greater molecules or photons and mass? Who knows, but leave a like and then let me know what you think in the comments.
This pedophile journalist once appeared in BuzzFeed talking about his relationship with children. This is Slade Somer. He's the former editor-in-chief of the news website The Recount. And in late 2023, he was charged with possessing and distributing hundreds of CP images and videos. But Slade went viral in 2018 after BuzzFeed shared some of his tweets and wrote an article about his discussion with fourth graders. Here's a screenshot of the article which BuzzFeed eventually removed, where they said people are touched by this writer's conversation with a bunch of fourth graders. Here's one of Slade's tweets where he's talking about discussing things with children. Here's another one of his tweets. And basically BuzzFeed turned this whole thing into a cute piece about this man having an innocent conversation with children. Little did they know that the man they were talking about was a literal demon who was in possession of and distributing hundreds of CP images and videos. This man was connected to a vast network of other pedophiles. And I think it's disturbing how the subhead of this article reads, "Kids are books filled with blank pages." The full article and all of this guy's tweets about what he said to these kids is just disturbing looking back at it. But according to court documents, when authorities searched Slade's phone, they found disturbing video clips of boys as young as 3 years of age being assaulted and forced to do things by adults. It's also been reported in a bunch of news outlets. I can't get actual factual information on this, but it's been stated many times online that Slade was an anti-Pizzagate guy who was campaigning virtually online and in person, telling people how it's all just BS. I'm not saying any sort of belief about that stuff, but it is an interesting side note in this story that he would go on to later be found guilty of possessing and disseminating CP videos and photos. I actually just produced a documentary about one of America's largest CP rings, where we actively worked to expose it and raise awareness of it. So if you want to watch this, if you want to help me raise awareness, the video is on YouTube now. Just search that name, or you can go to my channel, scroll down, and it's the most recent video I've posted. These discussions are very important to me, and this awareness is important to me to raise. So I'm trying to use my platforms for some sort of good. But yeah, YouTube demonetized my video immediately. So by going on there and watching it, it will show YouTube that it should recommend it. And if we can get a lot of people to watch this, hopefully it'll be recommended so we can expose these creeps for who they really are.
This is the most disturbing Brazil cartel execution video explained. The video that I'm about to explain is 6 minutes long, and it might be the most brutal video ever. The video opens up with a brief interrogation of one of the women. In the interrogation, she pledges her allegiance to the cartel, and the video then jump cuts and shows the same woman who at this point is bloody and beaten bad. She begins begging for her life, saying, "You could do whatever you want, just not that," referring to the man pointing the gun at her head. One of the other men then says no more chances, and the man with the gun shoots the poor woman in the head. They then check on her body, and the one man says, "I don't think she's dead," which makes him take out a machete and begin hacking away at her neck. The video then jump cuts again, this time showing the second victim, and this is where the video gets extremely graphic. The men order her to place her hands on a fallen log, which she does, and is then struck in the hand by the machete. They then order her to place her hands back on the log, and they then repeat this process over and over, until the log is completely covered in bloody handprints. She then holds her bloody and mangled hands up to the camera as she tries to hold back tears. The video then jump cuts again, and it shows the same girl sitting in a muddy hole, and the man carrying the machete then takes her hand and strikes her arm numerous times with the machete. He first breaks her bone and then cuts through the flesh, severing her arm. And due to the machete being blunt, it takes several strikes. Surprisingly, the victim doesn't scream, but she rolls around in pain for a few seconds. She then pleads to the killers to leave her alone. The man with the machete then orders her to raise her leg, which she does, and he then hits her in the shin twice, which looks like it breaks the bone. She cries out mercy and says she's about to pass out. The man then orders her to lift her leg again so he could repeat the process. He then says this again, but the victim then says she can't move. And in response, the man with the machete strikes her all over her body, all while she's still pleading with the man. And after several more hits, she says it's good enough, insinuating to kill her and put her out of her misery. After a couple more strikes, the killer breaks the machete, and the video then jump cuts again, and shows the second victim lying on her stomach with the killer pulling her hair to raise her head up. The killer then strikes her in the throat several times with the machete, and instinctively she tries to block the blade with her one remaining hand. The killer continues to hack and slash at the victim's neck as she slips in and out of consciousness before he finally beheads her. A third victim is shot in the head and beheaded off camera, much like the first victim. The killer then takes all three heads by the hair and holds them up to the camera, and the video then concludes. This video is extremely graphic and terrifying, and whatever you do, please never go seeking this video, because it will definitely scar you for weeks or even forever. This world is completely brutal, and this video is just another example.